నమస్తే తెలుగు వారి సాక్షి మన సాక్షికి స్వాగతం. I am Priya Goteti. Welcome to Immigration Talk Show with attorney Bhanu Illindra. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 5 immigration shows every week: Monday with Somirati Law Firms, Tuesday with Kaveti Law Firms, Wednesday with Prashanti Reddy, Thursday with Chand Parvataneni, and Friday with Bhanu Illindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you're an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email at us usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that information provided on this show is not a legal advice and for general information purpose only. Sakshi TV or its agents are not responsible for use of this agents. If you need any special legal advice, please contact. Let's invite our guest, Bhanu.
Hello, Andy.
యా అండి, లైక్ నేను ఈ మధ్య న్యూస్లో చాలా వింటున్నాను. 220G ఒకేసారి 50 మెంబర్స్ ఇండియాలో చాలా మందికి ఇచ్చారు అని చెప్పి వీసాస్. అది 221G రాగానే చాలా మంది టెన్షన్ పడుతూ ఉంటారు. సో ఈ రోజు మన షో టాపిక్ నేను 221G మీద చేద్దాం అనుకుంటున్నా. అసలు వాట్ ఈస్ 221G, ఎందుకు ఇస్తారు, వస్తే ఏం చేయాలి, అలా బేసిక్ గా. సో అసలు 221G ఏంటి, ఎందుకు ఇస్తారు అనే దాంతో స్టార్ట్ చేద్దామా?
షూర్ అండి. 221G అనేది జనరల్ గా టర్మ్ మనం వాడుకలో వాడే టర్మ్ అండి. యాక్చువల్లీ ఇట్స్ INA స్టాట్యూట్ సెక్షన్ 221G అన్నమాట. అండ్ ఆ 221G allows the Department of State whether to issue visa somebody or not. And if the Department of State consulate officer feels like that the information provided for them to seek a visa to come to the United States does not meet the requirements or is not enough for them to make a decision in favor of the individual, then they can deny a visa or reject a visa application. And that is what under 221G is all about. Okay? That means they're making a decision that they don't want to issue a visa for somebody based upon the information provided to them. However, 221G always allows the officer to reconsider the decision, especially if any new information has been provided or if there is any administrative processing has been referred to the background checks or anything like that. And if those things have been cleared or that information comes, then the officer can reconsider their decision and then they can actually reverse their decision. For example, if they deny the visa initially, then later on they can issue the visa also. So that's what 221G generally means. It's basically, that's what the Section 221G in INA facilitates the officers to make such kind of a decisions. And usually when somebody gets visa rejected, especially if somebody going for L1 visa or H1B visa or H4, usually they get denied. And consulates provide them the list of the documents required for them to reconsider the decision or to further review the decision. They issue a form and usually they call it as a 221G form, and that's why we call this 221G. That's a normal language lingo which we use in general terms, but usually 221G means is the INA statute section 221G.
And Bhanu garu, ఈ 221G for all kinds of visas కదా, స్టూడెంట్ visas, F1, H1, L1, they can issue it కదా?
Yes, అన్ని విసాలకి ఇవ్వచ్చు వాళ్ళు. కానీ మనం ఎక్కువ చూసేది ప్రామినెంట్గా చూసేది అయితే మనము, అంటే బికాస్ ఫ్రమ్ ఇండియా నుంచి మనం వచ్చే వాళ్ళం ఎక్కువ చూసేది H1Bస్కి L1స్కి ఎక్కువ చూస్తాము. ఎందుకంటే మనకి మోర్ ఈ కేసెస్ ఎక్కువ కాబట్టి మిగతా వాటికి 221Gs F1స్కి వాటికి 221Gs ఇచ్చే ఛాన్సెస్ చాలా తక్కువ ఉంటాయి. వాళ్ళకి రైట్ డిలే చేసేయచ్చు వాళ్ళకి H1 వీసాస్ని. బట్ H1Bస్కి L1స్కి ఏంటంటే ఒక్కోసారి బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ చెక్స్ చేయడము, లేకపోతే సైట్ విజిట్ వెరిఫికేషన్, కాంప్లెన్స్ రివ్యూస్ చేయడం, ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ప్రొవైడ్ చేసింది కరెక్టా కాదా రియల్గా. And then on the face of it, sometimes they may look like he's eligible for the visa, but they may have some kind of a doubt and they want to verify that. So under those circumstances, we issue this 221Gs and matter, especially for H1B visa holders. And unfortunately, we are seeing these 221Gs issuance more now in Hyderabad Consulate. Hyderabad Consulate is one of the largest consulates in the country. They have that many people applying for visa, especially H1B visa at the consulates. They're very busy. Probably they are the busiest consulate in the world, I believe. to issue visas and everything, you know.
Mhm.
And
సో,
we saw,
ఒక స్మాల్ డౌట్ అండి క్లారిఫికేషన్‌కి. 221 అనేది మనం వీసా స్టాంపింగ్ అంటుంటాం కదా! సో, కౌన్సులేట్ వీసా స్టాంపింగ్‌కెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఇచ్చేది 221 సిమిలర్ టు ఆర్ఎఫ్ఈ, వేర్ ఆర్ఎఫ్ఈ అనేది మనం ఫైల్ చేసినప్పుడు రిక్వెస్ట్ ఫర్ అడిషనల్ ఎవిడెన్స్ కోసం వాళ్ళు పంపిస్తారు. సిమిలర్ టు ఆర్ఎఫ్ఈ బట్ స్టాంపింగ్‌కెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఇచ్చే ఫార్మ్‌ని 221 అంటాం.
yes, RFE అంటే request for further evidence అండి. That's what it is called. That means they have all the information, but there is some information is missing for them to make a final decision on that case, whether it is positive or negative decision. For that, they issue the request for further evidence, giving an opportunity to submit your information and your documentary evidence to substantiate the fact that you're eligible for the benefit which you are seeking with the USCIS. Same thing with the 221G also. 221G also, what happens is actually it's a rejection of a visa, but at the same time, if they want to reconsider the decision, they'll ask certain information to be provided by you. For that way, they issue 221G at the consulates. And you are absolutely correct, what you said in general.
Okay. So, what are the common reasons for 221G issuing like 221G?
The common reasons we are seeing most of the times for 221Gs is mainly if they have any background check pending. For example, there is a name conflict for the individual. For example, XYZ ఉంటారు, సేమ్ డేట్ ఆఫ్ బర్త్ ఉంటుంది, సేమ్ కంట్రీ ఆఫ్ బర్త్ ఉంటుంది, అండ్ వాళ్ళ నేమ్ XYZ ఉంటుంది. అట్లా అట్లా కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్ ఉండొచ్చు ఇద్దరు ముగ్గురుతోటి, లేదా ముగ్గురు నలుగురితో. అందులో ఎవరికో ఒక రికార్డులో ఏదో ఒక చిన్న ఫ్లాగ్ ఉండొచ్చు. So they wanted to make sure that this person and that person is not one and the same and everything. They want to get a further information sometimes. Our information వాళ్ళకి PIMS లో ఇంకా update అయ్యింది. That could be one of the factors why they may issue 221G. Second thing, as I said, sometimes the entire documentation what we submit with the USCIS, that is actually updated into the PIMS system, that is Public Information Management System. And it is accessed by the 200 countries government officials అన్నమాట, all government agencies. సో అందులోంచి మన H1B ఫైలింగ్ కానీ అంతకని డిపార్ట్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ స్టేట్ యాక్సెస్ చేస్తుంది USCIS నుంచి. ఒక్కోసారి ఆ ఫైల్స్ అప్డేట్ అయ్యండి, వాళ్ళకి ఆ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్. సో దానికోసం కూడా వాళ్ళు 221G ఇవ్వచ్చు. మనకి చెప్పరు ఇవన్నీ. బేసికలీ అడ్మినిస్ట్రేటివ్ ప్రాసెసింగ్ అంటారు. దీస్ ఆర్ ఆల్ జనరలీ కన్సిడర్డ్ ఇట్స్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ అడ్మినిస్ట్రేటివ్ ప్రాసెసింగ్. సమ్ టైమ్స్ మనము లెట్స్ టేక్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫర్ H1. అది చాలా ఈజీ మనకి ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయడానికి, అందుకని H1B ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తీసుకొని మీకు చెప్తున్నాను. ఇప్పుడు H1Bలో కూడా ఏంటంటే మనము కన్సల్టింగ్ పొజిషన్ తీసుకుందాము. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ యూర్ వర్కింగ్ ఫర్ ఎ కంపెనీ and your employer actually is a consulting company and they actually let you provide services at the third-party client locations or for a third-party company. So when you go for the stamping and you explain to the officer saying that you're going to work at the third-party company or the third-party client, and if that information is missing for them in their system, they want to get verification of that information, then they can issue 221G also. So at certain times, that's called compliance review. They do the site visit verification and everything. Or sometimes they can demand the documentation to show that there is actually what you're telling is true. Like, for example, there is a genuine contractual relationship between you and the third party, your company and the third party company for whom you're actually providing services. Or your LCA is in properly filed or is in compliance with the work location what you are stating or the job description what you are providing. Those kind of things which they may ask you. So sometimes they might have a doubt whether if you're in the US already and you went for the stamp or renewal of the stamp or anything like that, they might ask you whether you're maintaining valid legal status or not. Or sometimes you have any criminal violations, like for example, any DUI or speeding tickets, like reckless driving tickets and all those things. So those information also can be asked in the 221Gs. So we see these several situations where 221Gs are given. But most common is when they want to verify third-party client-side verification information especially in the consulting business model, that's where we see 221Gs a lot. They demand the client letters, client agreements, and all those things. And that is what is happening currently with all the rejections in the 221Gs. What we are seeing at the consulates is happening because of that.
So, Bhanu garu, manki 221G, like you said, they'll give us a slip like saying that it's administrative purpose. Like, what would be our next steps? Like, how would we know that this is the particular reason because of which we need to provide more information to our visas or any other things? Like, what would be our next steps?
By looking into the data, right? By looking into the data, looking into what are the common issues which they're looking into when they're issuing 221Gs. And with that, only we can tell exactly what is that actually the consulates are looking into to issue a visa or not. And by looking into the data for the past 7 months, 8 months, most of the times 221Gs are issued when the employers file an H1B petition without stating who the end client is, whatever it is, especially if you're a consulting business model where your employees predominantly provide services to third-party companies, then that is what they're asking for. When you go for the consulate, who's your client? Where are you going to provide services? What are you going to do? Whether your employer is having the ability to pay the salary to you or not. All those questions are coming to them. And that is why they're issuing 221Gs. And second thing is, even if that is not mentioned in the H1B petition, but if you go to the consulate saying that I'm going to work for a certain client or I'm working for a certain client, then they want to verify with the client whether this guy is genuinely working on. And they want to verify that information. So to do the site verification compliance review, they're issuing 221Gs. So most of the times that's what we are seeing. And yesterday we were heard that in Hyderabad consulate, one day they issued 55 221Gs for all the people. That is unimaginable. Never seen anything like that before. So
Why suddenly we are seeing this 221Gs, Bhanugar? Like before, we did not see that much, right? Is it because of any changes in the government, or
it's probably a shift in the policy by the administrative agencies. Shift in the government we do not know yet because new government hasn't formed yet. New administration hasn't come into the power yet. They're coming after the January 20th, right? Currently, we're still in the Biden administration only. The problem here is the consulates are still applying even while USCIS is not applying those regulations in such a manner, consulates were continuously applying the same old way of regulations. Like they were demanding the client letters, client agreements, and everything, even though USCIS does not require you to provide those documents as of today. But from January 17th, again, you're required to provide those documents as per the new regulations that are coming into effect. But as of today, it is not required. So that's where the conflict between the USCIS and the consulate, and that's where I think it's resulting into 221Gs a lot. And most of the times they're questioning whether the companies really have a job for these people or not, whether there's a bona fide job existing or not, for the legal to come to the US and work. Because we are seeing a lot of people are being on the bench when they do a site visit, and people don't have jobs or anything like that in the market. Especially in the 2024, we heard that a lot of people did not have jobs; they were on the bench quite a few times. So those are the factors are playing a role in getting these 221Gs a lot. I think 55 221Gs is a record. I think we have to deal with this issue, and sometimes you can see that officers may be over-generously issuing 221Gs also, right? We do not know. Maybe they're crossing the line in issuing these 221Gs. So we have to look into it. That's the reason why we have to handle these 221Gs with seeking an advice from the competent lawyers, what they can do and everything. And if we feel like some 221Gs are unreasonable, and then we have to immediately reach out to the consulates and to the legal net also in the Department of State and discuss about this issue. And as an attorney, we can reach to the legal net. But as an individual, you cannot, and so those are very, very important. And if you don't raise your voice, if you don't express yourself, then these things will continue, especially if this is happening because they're over jealous.
yeah, మీరు అన్నట్టు ఒకేసారి 55 మెంబర్స్కి 221G అనేది లైక్ వీ డి నాట్ హియర్ దట్ ఇన్ పాస్ట్. సో ఇప్పుడు అలా ఇష్యూ చేసిన వాళ్ళకి ఎంత టైం ఉంటుంది లైక్ టు రీసబ్మిట్ ఆర్ టు ప్రొవైడ్ మోర్ డాక్యుమెంటేషన్, టు ప్రొవైడ్ సమ్ మోర్ ఎవిడెన్స్ ఆర్ ప్రూఫ్స్? హౌ మచ్ టైమ్ డూ దే హ్యావ్?
Actually, there is no deadline in that. Usually, your visa application valid for 1 year. Okay, once you apply for a visa application at the consulate, it is valid. So if you don't submit all that information within that 1 year, that application gets expired. Then you have to reapply for a visa again. Okay, so there is no particular deadline on that. But your interest is to get the visa as quickly as possible. That means your interest is to submit this information as early as possible. Okay, and with the site visits, compliance review with them, sometimes it will take even more time, because I do not like to submit immediate information for the site visit compliance reviews, because we have to verify what they're asking and everything. And also, is it necessary for us to provide that information also, based upon the information what we already submitted to the USCIS? That is the thing which comes into existence when we make those decisions. That's why sometimes we take time to respond to the site visit compliance reviews in our office, especially with the site visits which are going rapidly and rampantly right now in the US. In the H1B program.
So Bhanu, though we have 1 year of time, our main motto, like you said, we wanted the visa, so we'll submit the documents quickly. But what is the timeline from the USCIS side that to provide us, like, the visa is approved or rejected, to provide us further information? How
If
much
it is,
time?
there is no particular timeline for them also. They can take their own sweet time also. But what we are seeing in general in practice for all these years in my practice of 20 years of my immigration practice, what I've seen is that unless it's an administrative processing reviews, if it's basically because of some evidence which you are looking for and everything, once you submit the evidence, they're taking up to 60 to 90 days at max to give the decision. And if you're not hearing anything from them within those 60 to 90 days, that means you're not getting your visa.
Okay. So will they send us like rejection or denial if the it's just like wait, submit the documents and wait until they approve?
Yes. See, 221G denial is nothing but it's a denial of your visa. So tomorrow in the future, if you apply for a visa again, if any 221G issued, if they ask you the question DS 160, saying that I've ever been denied a visa or rejected a visa, you have to answer yes to the question in DS 160.
Okay, so once if 221G is issued and the visa got denied, again if the person or the individual will apply for H1, get it done, what would be the chances of him getting approved, or will there be any impact because of this 221G previously?
Not really, though, unless if the 221G is issued for because of his background check subpayment or there is some other issue in the candidate's individual information, then it's going to become a problem. But if the 221Gs has been issued because of the client verification or the employer verification or something like that, or the client documents or the employer documents, then there should not be any issue for you getting a visa from other company or through other H1B petition or file for you in that way.
So, like, what are the precautions that we might need to take or to prevent this 221G?
Make sure that don't go to the stamping unless you have a project, especially in the coming days. And if you have a project, make sure that you have all the documentation required to prove that you have a project. Like, for example, you have a client letters or vendor agreements, purchase orders, and all the documentation required to show that you have a valid and bona fide offer of employment from your employer. Right? Without those, don't try. Don't try yourself, because if you try yourself, maybe you end up with a disappointment with 221Gs. Don't blame anybody for that. That's my whole point. Yes.
సో మనకి రీజన్ తెలుస్తుందంటారా 221G ఎందుకు ఇష్యూ చేశారు అనేది?
వాళ్ళు చెప్తారు కదండి మనకి. For example, if they issue the form to you asking for certain information, that means you know why they issued 221G.
ఓకే.
Otherwise, they'll just say that your case request for third processing. That means it's an administrative process or a background verification, whatever it is.
సో యువర్ సజెషన్ ఇస్ లైక్ వీసా స్టాంపింగ్కి వెళ్ళే వాళ్ళందరూ కొంచెం ఇఫ్ ఇట్స్ రియల్లీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ దెన్ ఓన్లీ గో ఫర్ వీసా స్టాంపింగ్.
Yes. Yes. If it's only important, go for the visa stamping. It's always been like that, and also when you're applying for a visa, also at the consulate, make sure that information you're providing in DS 160 is true and correct. Sometimes that can also will cause delay. Sometimes that can also will cause issuing 221G, because if there's any conflict information available, then the information what you're providing in DS 160, that can also will delay in approving your application, your visa, and that also can result in 221G. We have seen several cases like that.
సో భాను గారు ఇందాక మీరు చెప్తున్నారు కదా సెక్యూరిటీ క్లియరెన్స్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ చెక్స్ వల్ల కూడా 221G ఇస్తా అని. ఇఫ్ దట్ ఈస్ ద కేస్, ఐ థింక్ బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ చెక్ అండ్ సెక్యూరిటీ క్లియరెన్స్ ఇస్ లైక్ లిటిల్ బిట్ కాంప్లికేటెడ్ సినారియో ఫర్ అస్ టు డీల్ విత్. సో అలాంటి ఇష్యూస్ వచ్చినప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి? లైక్ వాట్ షుడ్ వి డూ?
See, unfortunately, the courts have given or said that agencies have a lots of leeway to take their own sweet time under the circumstances. So, but usually the regulation says that, or Department of State guidelines also says that within 120 days they have to make a decision on this matter if any case is pending pursuant to for administrative processing or a background check investigation. But many courts have said that that's only a guideline, but it's not necessarily required that they have to follow that. Sometimes they can take even more time also. But some courts said that no, they have to adjudicate within 120 days. They have to make a decision within 120 days whether to issue a visa or not to issue a visa. And but as we said, as majority of the courts are giving too much leeway for the agency on this issue, they take their own sweet time with the background check verification. If anything, if you get stuck with the background check verification, it's an unfortunate situation when you have to keep on waiting and keep on following with the USA and with the Department of State what's going on with your case. Probably reaching to a legal net and getting the information from them, see, doing some FOIA requests and see if any information is there in your file that can be questioned or contradicted or changed. So those things can be done, but don't keep too much high hope that you get a visa quickly. That's what I would say, especially with the background checks, you know.
Mhm.
But very
Also,
good background checks. Not everything happens with the background check, right? Not for everyone.
so if the visa is, if we got to 221G and we submitted and it got denied, so can we reappeal or appeal for that?
Yeah, that's what I said. I mean, what they said is if they ask you the information, if you provide the information, they're going to reconsider that application. Otherwise, they're not going to reconsider your application. That means you have to assume that your visa has been denied. And then probably a good idea is for you is, you know the reasons why they have denied it and see if you can cover the deficiency and then again apply for a visa and then go with all the documentation needed. Probably that will give you the visa.
Okay, now I got it. 221G is like a denial itself, and what are the documents that we are submitting is for appeal. I was
Yeah.
thinking like it's just like ask 221G is a kind of form asking for more information, but
No,
yeah, now I understand it.
221G is a rejection of your visa
Got it.
or refusal of your visa. You can use three words for that: denial, refusal, or a rejection.
Got it. So, what would we like to say to our audience finally on 221G's rejections?
I would always say that if they're going for the stamping, it's better to consult their attorneys before going for the stamping. Go through, review all the documentation, what you're carrying, what you're submitting to the consulate, and then go accordingly and prepare yourself. You have to be well prepared for the interview. You especially if you're going for H1B visa stamping, you're going for a professional position, claiming that you are a professional and you're a well-trained professional and you're working in a professional job. Don't go in the shorts. Don't go in not combing your hair, and don't go in a casuals. Be a professional. Give your appearance that showing you as a professional. That's very very important. And you go there and act like some child or some kid or some student, it doesn't help you when you're applying for a visa. You have to have that professionalism, you have to have that presentability, and have to have an eye-to-eye contact with officers, right? Why are you not having eye-to-eye contact? Why are you not confident in presenting yourself who you are? Those factors make a huge difference, and you should be able to be well answered, well prepared what to answer. If they ask you about your job responsibilities, what you do exactly, what's going to be your role, you have to be able to answer what's going to be your role with confidence, with responsibility, exactly what you're going to do for the company. You know, and if you can present yourself, if you are well prepared, if you know all the issues properly in your case, go through your petition properly, all the information properly, talk to your employers, gather all the information from your employer, make sure that you are well prepared for that, and your employer is also well prepared for that, or in the both of you are in sync, then very likely that you'll get a visa. It's very unlikely that you will be denied, even after 20, even if 221G is given. Very likely that after complaints review or after submission of the documents, it's very likely that you'll get a visa.
Got it. Thank you so much, Bhanu Garu, for sharing all your insights and the reasons for common reasons for 221G. దిస్ ఇస్ అబౌట్ 221G అండ్ మనం చూస్తాం కదా ఇప్పుడు రీసెంట్ గా జరిగే హాట్ టాపిక్ అదే. సో ఎస్, ప్రాపర్ గా డ్రెస్అప్ అయి ప్రొఫెషనల్ గా వెళ్ళండి ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ గోయింగ్ ఫర్ ఇంటర్వ్యూస్. And unless and until if it's really required, don't go for visa stamping. This is Priya Goteti signing off, and thank you, Bhanu garu. You're watching Sakshi Sakshi.
Thank you, Priya. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Sakshi TV.